was a session of the business series that I thoroughly enjoyed. I spoke with the technical advisor to the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, and she spoke about how the global fashion market is worth $1 trillion and how Nigeria can position itself to grab more of that piece. Take a look. The global fashion industry is valued at about $1 trillion that is in 2020. I guess the question now is, how much of that pie can Nigeria position itself to be a part of? I mean, as a representation of the government, that is the National Export Promotion Council, what would be the key steps that Nigeria can do in order to achieve this?
Basically, Nigeria needs to reorganize itself and tap into the global value chain. The fashion industry, as you've rightly pointed out, is a huge industry, creating enormous potentials for jobs as well as for foreign exchange earnings. Ethiopia, for instance, has reorganized and taken that as a government priority. That textile industry is a priority for the government. So they are planning that in the next 3 years or so, they'll be paying revenue to government of about $500 million. So just think about that figure. Ethiopia's demographics is almost similar to ours. There are about 90 million people, youth population of about 65%. We have 170 million people, youth population is about 70%. And it's within that population, actually, that you have the labor for the fashion and garment industry. So we have seen those potentials, and we see that there is a big absence of Nigeria. We're largely significant in the global value chain for fashion and a few others. So what we're trying to do really now is to work in partnership with the private sector, with development partners, to see how we can support the sector to transform the creative, comparative potentials that we have into real value for us and take Nigerian products out there. So we're working specifically at the moment with Style House, the organizers of the Lagos Design Fashion Week. We're working with them to set up, to run our Human Capital Development Center. We took some Nigerian designers out to the biggest sourcing show in the world. And basically we did that because we wanted to take them to where the buyers, the biggest buyers go to, one, and secondly, to make them understand what the market out there needs, because the global value chain for fashion is buyer-driven. They're the ones who determine the prices, they bring in the technology, they represent the consumers' tastes and their takes, and they also market things so the consumers want them. So because of that, we had to take them to go and understand the market better so we can organize ourselves better at home. So we had that center, the Human Capital Development Center, starting up in a month or two now in Lagos. It used to be an AGOA center in the past, but then it was moribund for about 3 years, but we're just resuscitating it now and physically moved it from Ikeja now to our office, from Ikoyi to our office in Apapa, and where we're working also in partnership with UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. They are going to be supporting us with a bit of machinery as well as technical expertise. So we've just done a scoping work for that project, which completed last month. We had an Indian specialist from the sector funded by UNIDO to work with a local expert from Style House, and engaged with stakeholders in the sector.
I mean, speaking about building local capacity, I mean, NPC had something similar in Aba. What happened to that?
Okay, well, what we had in Aba was a common facility center, which was a tripartite setup between the federal government, NEPC, that is Nigerian Export Promotion Council, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, our parent ministry, and then the state government and UNIDO. We also had the representatives of the Textile Association as well as leather goods. So that center was for both leather and apparel. It went on all right when it had management. There was an outsourced management for it, and things happened. They were able to produce leather goods from their shoes, specifically footwear, and exported them. But then that contract expired. UNIDO had at the time paid for that support. When it expired, there were issues with the administration, the last administration of the state government taking on the project. So they didn't quite meet up with the requirements for it, and so things went there. Then they had court cases between the association and, well, so
But
things packed up. But we were trying to resuscitate it again. Interestingly, I think the current governor of Abia State has seen the potentials for that center, and so his special advisor on economic growth has been to see us last month and talking about how we can work together to either let them handle it now, this time looking at the visions, but we're fine-tuning things with them. UNIDO was also at the meeting in Abuja last month, so hopefully that center will take off. But what we found out going out to a few of these places is that we do lack production capacity.
I was going to talk about that.
Yeah, we lack production capacity. We also lack, we don't measure up adequately to the standards required at the international market. And so these are the areas that we need to focus more attention on, and that's why we have people like Style House, because we want people who are, we are government agencies. Of course, we provide incentives, we want to create the right environment, but ultimately we're not the ones to do. It's the private sector. And so that's why we're in a partnership with someone like Style House, who is from the private sector and who understands the industry well enough to be the interface between us, the industry, and what the market needs. So they can bring that knowledge back, and then we can support with the technical know-how and a bit of incentives and right environment for, for the industry people to build their capacity and then move on to take us where we need to go.